benefits or incentives on the other, and that we, in the end, need to be balancing those. So let's just differentiate between things that give us rationale in support of convergence and things which explain why convergence is impracticable.
So lastly, if we're getting a point to a break, but if you could just turn to page 185, and I mean this is the easiest one. So this is for districts for which merger is either not possible or not practical or both. And it gives a list of all the schools and goes through, as a general principle, the secretary defers to the legislature's presumption that a district would be better able to meet or exceed educational fiscal opportunity, equity, and efficiency, and the district school would be more likely or remain viable if they had access to flexible, inherent, and larger unified structure. This group, however, consists of districts that are geographically distanced from other districts that share the identical operating tuition structure. So that's a principle. In each instance, movement into a larger unified governance structure can occur only if the voters of the district and or the voters in one or more other districts in the region are willing to compromise regarding the grades for which they operate the schools and pay tuition. So it goes through and lists them. So just looking at the schools, it's very, it's a list that's not possible. We've talked about some of these already. We've talked about South Hero. We've talked about Vernon. So the Walcott School District. So all of these that the secretary is saying is not practical or possible. Anything that people want to add from this list? I think it's pretty straightforward, this idea that it goes back to some of the ones we've already talked to, that they are geographically distanced from any other district that shares an identical operation. I think that gets at the one we were saying with contiguous.
Yeah.
That might even be a nicer way of saying that they are geographically distant from any other district that shares identical operating tuitioning structure. That might even be more succinct than contiguous.
I would stay with contiguous because as soon as you say distance, how do you measure distance? Contiguous is binary.
Yeah.
Super easy.
Peter.
So we still have to give them central office services, right? That's
So,
do that.
right, so this is not merging the districts themselves. They are still a member of an SU. So we looked at South Hero, it's still a member of an SU, but it's still its own standalone district because the closest partner would be Georgia, but Georgia and South Hero don't touch. And that's what the state board, I'm hearing people say, that if it's not contiguous, then that's not a viable option.
So Krista, can I just ask
Yes.
a definition of contiguous? Does that mean that that corners touch?
Yeah.
Is that
That's
okay?
contiguous.
I'm just making sure that we're not saying a common border. That if you have, like that place out in the Midwest where you can stand 4 states at the same time.
I mean,
Right.
you could, if you look at it, there's 89 connects the two of them. I mean, is that, if you want to get nitty gritty. So, I mean, I think we're saying that they have some sort of
That they have
touching.
that they touch each other. That's all. I just want to make sure that later we get down the road we don't.
No, that's, Peter.
So
Yeah.
we
Okay,
can't
good.
assume that their SU that they're currently in is what's it's gonna remain as such, right? These.
That is true. So, and that goes to the last section of the report, adjustments of SU boundaries. So this is just saying that they should be a standalone district. Doesn't mean that they would change. It doesn't mean that their SU wouldn't change.
And this is one area, and Donna, keep me honest here, where we're on a tight timeline and we're mandated by the legislature to put a plan in place regarding the districts by November 30th. But we still retain authority to adjust SU boundaries after that date. Is that correct?
That's correct, under section 20, or 261, which has been in place for decades.
John.
I'm just wondering if the list on page 185 oughtn't to be viewed in light of all the other decisions or proposals. A specific example might be number 42, Windsor, West Windsor. Well, Wethersfield was separated from Heartland by West Windsor. That was the reason they weren't contiguous. So there must be a good reason for this that I don't understand. Why would Windsor, West Windsor, and Wethersfield not be considered?
Windsor, West Windsor merged, and so they've become pre-K through 12, or they will be pre-K through 12 operating district, which means that they do not it does not have the same operating structure as the district to its north or the district to its south. The only reason that they are here is because, similar to Elmore Morristown, they didn't meet the specific criteria to be eligible for tax rate reductions. And so even though they merged within this time frame,
We're not exempt.
they aren't exempt.
They would be eligible then to be married with another district.
That has the same structure, correct?
So,
And their neighbors don't have the same structure.
well, the irony, of course, is that West Windsor had exactly the same structure as did Weathersfield until it merged with Windsor. West Windsor didn't have high school.
But they had, they did not operate 7th and 8th, and both the district to the north and the district to the south do operate 7th and 8th, so they were not the same even then.
Okay, thank you.
Dan?
No, just to Oliver's comment, I think the state board's final plan should include SU boundary reconsideration, not to your point, I think, yeah, you have that authority after this exercise is over, but I think you're gonna, especially with this list, you're gonna have to engage in some SU boundary redrawing as part of the plan that you'll finalize prior to November 30th.
All right, yeah.
One last thing, that discussion we just had about those three towns, districts, makes me wonder sometime about the operating district rule, dissimilar operating districts as being an impermeable barrier to convergence of governance. It seems to me to be a very artificial consideration in some requests, in some situations.
And
Section
Donna,
4.
do you want to address
I
that?
understand it's the
Yeah, it's-
statute. I'm
right.
suggesting that the statute be
So
revisited.
for future, I mean, that's not, again, we can't change that.
I
It can be changed, as Oliver said, at the State House.
Yes,
They're
well,
not-
I'm looking,
Right.
Fought very hard for that
I'm
section.
looking for a list of
There are two levels to it. One is that statutorily, you don't have the ability to require a district to change. Beyond that, constitutionally, our legal advice to you and my legal advice to the legislature when I was legislative counsel is that constitutionally, you can't have a single district that treats students in the same grade differently. So you wouldn't be able to merge them and keep their current operating and tuitioning, different operating and tuitioning structures in different towns as a single district. That's a constitutional issue. It's a statutory issue about whether or not you'd be able to require one of them to change so that they're something the same.
Okay. See you in court.
All right. On that note, it's time for a break, I think. And so we have, it's just shy of 2:30. So if we could be 2:45, just shy of that. And could we have, Stacy, do you mind just whatever list you have, we can try and make a photocopy of so we can try. All right.
So we can examine your handwriting.
Yeah, so how about we make it 2:45, just to add a little bit extra in there so we can get that photocopied. And we'll be back then. All right, if we can come together again. And again, we are running late, so we're doing so well, but we're doing with the timing. Oh, sorry. Okay, all right. So we are, again, working on the guiding principles for statewide governance plan. And can we just, Oliver, do you feel in a place that you could read it?
Yes. Alrighty. So any merger scenario that is not statutorily prohibited is deemed to be possible. Proposed mergers under the acting secretary's plan shall be deemed to be practicable unless a school district or group of districts submitted a duly authorized AGS proposal by January 31st, 2018, and some or all of the following factors are present, in which case the SB will give due consideration to the same.
Nice.
First, districts have formal agreements and/or processes underway to merge governance, example, joint school district or interstate compact. Second, non-contiguous to a like operating structure unless offered under an AGS proposal. Third, if spending per equalized pupil is greater than 20% of the mean spending per equalized pupil of potential merger partners, then the SB will examine the impact of debt. 4th, the case where there was a no vote on a 7-0